Hey, what was your? So you mentioned JDR, Shantie, and obviously you spent a lot of time at Pro Circuit with. Take us through the different teams and riders you've had over the years, just for people who don't know.
I mean, I started right out of high school. I worked at a buddy's shop that like family friend owned. You know, his parents owned it, and we were super good friends. And then, I mean, I'll fast forward it a little bit, but I ended up getting. I went out to Vegas for like one of the last. Why am I drawing a blank? At the race at the MGM for the US
Open. Yep.
And I went out there to race, like qualified and everything, but I had a mission to get a job in the industry. So, long story short on that, I talked to all the team managers. I remember them. I remember Fisher for sure told me, like basically, don't talk to me. You need to go to school. Keo was super nice. I talked to Roger and everybody, and then I looked over in the garage, and I was a huge fan of like the Alessis growing up. Like I wore alloy gear and rode CR85s and shit.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah, right. And I talked to Tony. And when Jeff was riding like privateer Honda that year, that was the first year Mike was on Suzuki's. And I told him that I wanted to do something. And I told him I'd even move out to California for free and just do like a tryout or whatever. And it ended up working. He called me and said he needed somebody, and I moved out there. So my first guy was basically, I mean, you ask the guys that work there like Sausage and Eddie Larrett and stuff, they called me Lot Boy.
Okay.
So I was just a shop bitch, just anything that needed done. Lonnie Taylor was like our track builder guy. And
at the house in the desert? At the house where the tracks are?
Yeah, up in the
there?
desert. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So just did everything there. So that got me started. And then I stuck that out as long as I could. And then I worked for the Markoff brothers, I think directly after that, because I was really trying to get a job at Mitch's, but it was premature. I'm glad I didn't back then because I didn't know what I was getting into. Didn't have enough experience to ever really do the race team thing at that point. But Mitch did offer me a job in the service shop at one point, and everybody told me, "Oh, dude, if you ever get a job in the service shop, you'll never be able to go over the threshold to the other side." It's different now, but I was like, so I stayed away from that. So anyway, I worked for that. I worked for the Markoff brothers when they were in amateurs, and I worked for Les Smith his last year pro on Team Green.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we did, like, I think that was. So 2009, I believe we did Yamaha 250 outdoor. And then he got the ride at Honda Troy, like the fill-in ride for Kilberger when he had Epstein-Barr or whatever. So our deal was to bring a couple bikes up there, and we worked with Chad Sanner and, you know, Narco Nate and all those boys, and did that for that summer. And then some bad blood went down, and then the team split, and I went where the money was, so I went to the Kilberger side. And then I ended up running, like I was working, we hired Nico, and Phil Alderton was back on the team, trying to do this thing out of Ohio with Kilberger, you know, side of the funding. And that was actually really fun. Ran that team basically, like, went down to Barsh's house, brought a box trailer down there in a motorhome, and me and the other mechanic, John, and Levi, like, organized this whole thing. And Tony, his dad, bought a semi and raced that whole season like that. And then I think at Millville, I talked to Vince. I'm still trying to get into Pro Circuit. And every year I heard that, like, Mitch would, like, pick somebody from, like, Destinations he talked to overseas. He was bringing all those, like, Euro guys over. And so I talked to Vince Barini, who had worked there for Stroop for a while, and asked him, like, dude, how'd you get in at Pro Circuit? And he's like, oh, you know, it was different back then. Mitch called me, and then he was like, how come you haven't given me a resume? So I was like, dude, I never really thought about it. I only had my heart ever set on working at Pro Circuit. I told that, you know, that's what I wanted to do from an early age. So then, you know, I ended up getting a job there at JDR, and man, that was really cool. Like, Nate Dogg was the team manager, Vince was crew chief, Renee Zapata was our engine guy. We had you know, Serge, the guy was at WP. WP was kind of new over here. They were getting their footing. And, yeah, we had Malcolm, and we had PJ Larson at one point, and we had Joey. That team was really cool. And then the funding, everybody thought, like, the funding ran out, but the dude that ran it, like Jay, I think he just had some different interests, and his dad kind of asked if he wanted to keep doing it, and I think he decided not to, and they were going to go into, like, this filming side stuff. That's what, like, Jason McAlpine from Gypsy Tales was our film guy, and that's how I know Jay. Like, just everybody... It feels like that's where everybody kind of got their start.
Right.
And then kind of went somewhere else with it. So, and then Richie, who works at R&D at Cowie now, one of my really good friends. But anyway, that team shut down in 2013, basically right after we got started. I think we were in Phoenix that year, like round 2 or 3, and we were told we were only going to make it to May, so that sucked. So
okay.
we were trying to pull some funding together to get the outdoors done, and then it ended up just folding up. So and then Vince got me the job at PC. Mitch needed a guy. Actually, Paul from Renthal was quitting. I think that's when he was going to go start his answer bout or whatever. And I went in there one night. Vince called me. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm sitting on my couch. I don't have a job." He's like, "Well, you got to get to pro circuit right now."
That sounds sounds like a typical hire of Mitch. Yep.
Oh yeah, no, like it's like Mitch is like whenever it's ready. Like I feel like he's in the mindset in the headspace. And it was like the last day of the month. And if anybody knows that, like when you work over there, you got until basically the last day of the month in September to tell Mitch you're leaving or not, or you're getting a contract put in your face and you're going to sign it and go back to work. So, yeah, non-negotiable. So it was like September 30th, and I went down there, and Paul had a few beers. Everybody's, after 6 o'clock, kind of goes down over there. So I walk in like super. I don't really know a lot of the guys. Like Feeney was there. Yeah. I knew Paul a little bit. And Zach a little bit, maybe Aaron, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Vince just said to come down here. So I walk in the race shop, and Paul looks at me. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, I don't know. I think I'm here to get your job. Because he had just told Mitch that he needed a guy, or that he's leaving, you know?
Yeah.
So I go in, I talk to Mitch, and he's like asking me all these questions, and I just leave, and I'm like, I don't know how that went. And then I think the next morning, Vince calls me, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Dude, nothing." And he's like, "All right, well, go down to Pro Circuit and bring a toolbox." And I'm like, he's very matter of fact. And I was like, "All right, and do what?" He's like, "Oh, well, when you get there, Wayno's going to come out and bring you in." I was like, "All right, cool. Maybe I'm getting a tryout or something, you know?"
Yeah.
So Wayne comes out back. I never got to park out back. Every other time I went to talk to Mitch, I parked in the front and like waited in the showroom for 10 hours and never got to talk to him. So
right. Yeah, that sounds about right too. Yeah.
Typical, right? I see him like 3 times go by the service shop and he's too busy. And yeah, I think one day I was there for Paula for the National, just as like a spectator hanging out trying to get a job, and I sat there from like 10:30 to 6 when they closed, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't get to you. Just come to the race and talk to me."
Oh wow,
jeez.
Yeah,
dude, that shows some dedication though.
Yeah,
yeah, dude. I tried hard, man. I tried. I'd bring him beer and leave it with my fucking my business card stapled to it, all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That was it,
but,
dude. How many people ask all the time, "How do I get into this?
Yeah.
How do I become a mechanic?"
Yeah.
There you go. Your story, Steve.
Yeah, you wait 8 hours.
Shantie story. Yeah.
Buy Mitch some beer.
Dude,
Right.
it's not easy.
I got let go at Chaparral Yamaha in it was late. It was like November when they finally let me go, which was stupid because I was supposed to stay on. It was a whole thing. And Brooks felt really bad. And he's like, "Hey man, I got you a job with Mitch Payton. I feel so shitty about this, but I called Mitch and he's going to hire you. You got to go down right now. I mean, you're fired, but go to Mitch." And I'm like,
wow,
fucking devastated because I should have got a hint when 2 days earlier, the guy that used to be Ferry's mechanic said, "Hey man, you know that tie I gave you to build the race bike? Yeah, can I have that back?"
Oh no.
And I'm like, "That's weird because, it's for my race bike, but here you go." Anyways,
had to get the tie back first before they cut him loose.
I haul ass from Chaparral to Mitch to Peyton, and I wait there again for an hour or so, and he's like, "Yeah, Larry called me," and he goes, "I got a shop opening for you," and he goes, "In the service department."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
He hit me with the same thing. Like after the Alessis, I lived out here for just a minute, like for whatever I could afford. I actually lived with Kiwi. You remember?
Oh yeah, I know Kiwi. Yeah.
With Ross.
Yeah.
I lived with him, and I was going to Moto XXX, and Alan Brown was paying me like a little bit a day just to kind of do anything I could around there.
I didn't know this part of your job. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was only for like maybe a month until I like ran out of cash, and then my last bit of cash I just flew home, to like reset and reanalyze what the hell I'm trying to do. I was pretty homesick at that point because I moved out here so quick.
Right.
But every 2 days I would go and drive from Ross's house from Riverside over to Mitch's and wait in the lobby and try to talk to Mitch. And so I end up flying home.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I can't bullshit you. Like the second I'm walking through my mom's front door, Mitch calls me. And I'm like, "Oh fuck, okay, hello." And it's super awkward, like he definitely waits for you to pull the trigger first.
Yeah.
Like he'll sit there and just like not say a thing for for 5 minutes until you say, and you're like, because he's like, I was like, hello? He's like, yeah, it's Mitch Payton. I was like, oh, hey, man. And he's just like, just dead quiet. I'm like, yeah, are you there? He's like, yeah, I'm here. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And he's like, oh, yeah, so I was looking around, and I don't have anything on my race team right now, but I do have a spot for you in my service shop. And then just, like, waits for me to answer, and I'm like, I'm trying to, like, man, I've been told not to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I just moved back out here, and he's waiting for me to answer, and I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, but I could put you in the service shop, see how it works out, and then he always says, I'll plug you in. And I was like, man, Mitch, I just moved back here. Yeah. And, like, I told him the whole story, and then just like this, just dead.
He just hangs up.
He already hung up, yeah.
I'm just like, are you there? He's like, no, I'm here. I'm like, yeah, so I guess I got to decline at the moment. Like, I'm back on the East Coast now, and I really wanted a race team job. And then I thought I'd burned my bridge the whole time because for years after that, like, I would drive by there all the time. Like, dude, I'm going to work there one day. I swear to God, I'm going to work there one day. And every time I try to get a job, it was like, no, basically like, F you turn me down, whatever. But, yeah, we're good now. Like, it was so.
If you work at Pro Circuit and you last a few years, any factory team will hire you. That's the truth.
See, that's what it was. That was on the street. Like, dude, if you just get in at Pro Circuit, you're there for 2 years. Like, everybody will know the dedication you have to the industry and to the team and how much you've learned there. And, you can do everything because PC is still the only team that still builds their own engines. Like, every guy builds their own race engine, their own practice engine, some test engines. They get them dynoed, and I mean, it's a full-on operation, for a mechanic there. So when you can learn to be organized at a team like that, everybody else knows that you can handle, like 450s, you're not as hands-on. Like, I mean, I still work just as much, but on other things, like, we have a full engine department, so which most teams do now. So, it was a whirlwind for sure. Like, I know I jumped around there, but yeah, I go in, sit down with him. He asked me a couple more questions, I come in the back door with Wayno, and he's like, "Oh, congratulations on the job." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Hey, here's your work bay right here." And anybody that's ever worked there knows, like, the new guy gets the pole bay. It's the work bay that has no room in it because there's a damn
pole. That's right.
Support pole standing in the middle of the shop, the way the shop was laid out. So you get the pole bay and you put your toolbox on the bench and you literally go work right then. Like, he's like, I'll let you get organized and then we'll take an engine apart and I'll teach you how. There's this whole book there of how to take it apart, and it's an operation, dude. Like, I can't say enough good things about that place. Like, it put me on the map. And
my first time at Yamaha, they're like, do you know much about four-strokes? I'm like, no. They're like, hey, well, there's a bunch of Doug Henry works motors from YZM. Destroy those. Take those apart, look at everything, and destroy them. And I'm like, okay, those are works motors. But okay.
Shantie, at this point, you hadn't even agreed to work there or knew what you were getting paid.
I didn't agree to shit. Like, I was taking the job regardless. I didn't actually see Mitch. All right, so I'm sitting there working. We take an engine apart. I'm moving in. I bring some of my other stuff, like, the normal mechanic shit that you have, like all the whatever. So I'm moving in, and then me and Wayno are in the middle of tearing one down. And I haven't even seen Mitch at this point. It's almost lunchtime, and I got there probably at 8:30 or 9. And he just comes rolling through the back of the shop like he does, like coming from outside of the dyno with the customer down. He's so hands-on. And he just comes rolling through, and he goes, "Shantie's in the house," and then goes out the front door like towards his office.
That's crazy.
Like, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, nobody even, like, turned around. Like, everybody's like, okay, yeah.
Like, can you imagine if something had happened and Shantie had gotten hurt? Well, he doesn't even work here. I don't know. Sorry.
He never showed up.
I started at Yamaha. I got interviewed at Yamaha, and Timmy's like, I'm like, how much do I make? And Timmy's like, tell him 55. And I'm like, okay. And I got interviewed, and I'm like, they're like, what do you want to make? I'm like, well, I was thinking about 55. And they don't say anything. Nothing gets said. They're like, you got the job. And I'm like, cool. I guess at 55, I didn't ask. I just started working. Got my first paycheck, 42. And I'm like,
that's spot on, man.
I feel like you should tell someone, hey, we didn't
meet your ask.
We didn't match your
ask.
We didn't match your offer.
Yeah, and I literally went to HR and said, I think there's something wrong. And they're like, no, you make 42 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, So anyways, it's great.
The beauty of Mitch is he'll tell you if you ask the HR department, he'll turn his head and then whip it back. He's like, "Hello, I'm HR." Like, no bullshit, that's actually happened.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember, I was like, all right, I found a stopping point at one point, and then there's certain hours a day you'll catch him. He does, like, he's pretty routine, so he comes in, yada, 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 and then you catch him in his porta room towards the end of the day. So I'm like, hey, you know what, I'm going to go in there and just thank him for the opportunity. Yeah. I guess I got the job, and I'd love to know what I'm getting paid and when we get paid, and just it's kind of like you'll just figure it out with the guys.
Yeah, do you need my W-2?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, like, is this like do I just get paid cash, or like, what are we doing? Is this a tryout? Like, so I go in and he's like grinding like this 2-stroke cylinder for, dude, it had to be 10 minutes, and he sees me standing there in the porting shop, and I'm just standing there like a little kid, just waiting for him to like take a minute, and like just keeps grinding. I can see him looking at me out of the corner of his eye, never misses a beat. I felt so awkward. I just turned around and walked back to work. I never talked to him.
He said in his mind, Mitch was like, works again.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, dude. I was like, wow, that was weird. I'm not ever doing that again. I swear, I don't think I actually talked to him about like contract stuff until like he was doing contracts with everybody. It was like 3 days later. I sit down and he's like, oh, how's it going back there? The boys seem everything's getting along. I was like, yeah. And I didn't want to make the mistake of like telling him what I wanted for pay. So I was just like waiting for him to like just tell me a number or whatever. So he just said, here, sign this. And he flops the contract in front of you. And he's like, this is basically for me, not for you. My mom makes me do this.
My mom.
So, and then
that's so great.
It's funny. I start filling it out, and there's a line that says salary, I was like, what? Do you want me to fill this? And he's like, no, I'll fill that in.
I'll do that part.
We agree on some money or whatever, but it's kind of like your story where you're like, oh, I'm looking to make, let's say, 55, but I'm thinking less. Whatever you say is going to be less. Yeah, I'm thinking less.
Yeah.
So.
And then I was so pissed about my salary, and I was really going to leave after the first year. Timmy didn't give me great bonuses, which is fine. I didn't ask for him, but he didn't really bonus me out. And 42 was not much money in Orange County, where Yamaha is, to rent something, right? And I was super pissed, and I was talking to Mach 1 about working for Yogi. And I was like, I was going to leave. Like, Timmy and I, we're fine, but I'm like, dude, I can't do this. And not to mention I wasn't really jiving with the people there. And I was talking to Yogi, and that team was like 60 grand, 1099, 60 grand. So, that's even more than 40. Like, that's more than 42, obviously. And then with the write-offs, you take home a lot more. It would have been a way better deal. And then I was called in the office because Mach 1 probably called Yamaha and be like, can we hire this guy? Because they were a Yamaha support team. Your guys, Mach 1. Mm-hmm. And then I was called into the office and said, I know you're underpaid to other factory guys. I'm going to make it right. Go to the Motocross of the Nations, come back, and you'll have a raise above and beyond what the corporate world can give you. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And I get back, and they're like, yeah.
44.
No, $1,200 more.
and by then, the other deal's too late.
Yeah, by then I was committed.
Yeah.
I told Timmy I'm staying, went to Motocross of the Nations. $100 extra a month.
Above and beyond. Nice. What an industry.
What'd you do?
I had to stay.
Yeah, he was locked in then.
And then I told Timmy, like, hey, man, I need a bit more bonus money. Like, he kind of didn't stoke me out in 03. And he goes, okay, like I will, and then promptly broke his wrist and never made another podium ever again for Yamaha. Yeah. So,
I think after my first year, my first year I worked for Justin Hill, and that was when he won his first race. We won our first race at San Diego that year or whatever. So I went in. I think this was like my second year because my first year with Joey was 2015. And he had a good year. I'm actually looking at the number, but I save all my the win plates. So I'm trying to look back on the date right here. But yeah, I think 2015. At the end of the season, I went in and I was like, I've been here for 2 years. I should probably have to miss for a raise. And of course, wait for contract season, try to polish your story up, and you go in, and the second you sit down, you lose everything because he hits you like blindsides you with some weird question, or he's good, man.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey man, like I think I've been doing good. He's like, no, your work's good. I'm good with the work. Work's good, and attitude's good and everything. I was like, yeah, I was thinking for a raise. He's like, oh really? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, he's like, I don't know. You've been probably doing pretty good with Joey with bonuses and stuff. I was like, yeah, it is a bonus. Like it's not guaranteed and all this stuff. And he's like, all right, here's what I'll do. I'll ump your championship bonus because he bonuses out all the guys for championship. And yeah, I'll double it for you, and we're good to go. I'm like, come on, man, like, that's still just a bonus.
Yeah.
So.
And you're like, that's it? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a stickler. So
we got pizza whenever Chad won. I mean, there is that. You guys get pizza when you guys win.
We had pizza. Yeah, I mean, we went through that dry spell for a while. I think we put the pizza business, shut down.
The local spot struggling.
Yeah, local spot was dried up. So, but no, it was good through there. 5 years there.
Yep.
The last 4 with Joey. There was times that it was sometimes I think just Joey racing. So.
Yeah.
We had our ups and downs. Obviously, Vegas was a big downer with us. That's a pretty memorable bummer there. But yeah, then what was it? I got a call. I think Theo called me one time and asked me if I wanted to go work at Cowie for JG. And I was like really debating because I didn't know how it was going to work if Mitch would get pissed that Cowie's pulling guys like you were saying from his team and how it works politically with Dan and Bruce and those guys, and they don't want to upset the his team and all that. So it was cool. It was like the first time I got called and offered like a legit job at that point. So you feel like you've been noticed, and you try to make friends and network through the industry. And I actually turned that job down because I was hemming and hawing around because I didn't want to. I thought the next year with Joey was going to be I wanted to see his career.
You turned down Factory Cowie?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how it worked. I was like, I really want to come there with Joey. I think he has the potential to go there. And right when I started going back and forth, it was the third time Theo called me, and we were good friends getting to be friends or whatever, because I'd ask him questions about Cowie, and we'd network through the races, and he'd come to the shop after, and we'd do lunch and stuff. And he's like, oh, you know what? I'm taking the offer off the table. I can tell that it's not the right time. There will be a time in the future, but I think you really want to finish the deal out with Joey, and you think there's something to be, So I was like, man, did I just blow it? I have all the faith in Joey, to turn it around, whatever happened. But yeah, it ended up working out because, Travis Perry from RCH ended up going over there and working for JG. And then on the second year, he went to Team Green, and then there was a spot open, and I'd already been told they're going to hire Joey, but it wasn't really his call to bring his mechanic. I wasn't in the cards for this deal. They were like, yeah, well, it's not going to be in your contract or whatever for Joey, but we'll hear what you have to say. We'll listen about your mechanic, So
yeah.
I was like, man, I turned that other job down and basically withdrew it or whatever. So it went pretty late in the season. I didn't really know, and then they had a dinner, and I think they asked Joey all right, well, let's talk about mechanics real quick. And Joey and his dad were both like, we want Shantie or whatever, and they're like, all right, they kind of needed a guy because Travis was leaving. If not, I don't think I would have got the job. But I think the last question they asked was hey, on the line, who's the last person you want in your ear before the gate drops? And, I think Joey obviously probably said me. So, it worked out. So, yeah, I've been there ever since 2018.
Well, after I got hired, Jimmy Perry said, I didn't really want to hire you. I wanted to hire Paul Deloria. I'm like, this is starting off great. Yeah. This is fantastic.
Great vibe.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I knew I was getting the job, and then so me and Kranz are super good friends now, but I think I rubbed him the wrong way in the beginning. I don't know if you know anything about Kranz, but he's a pretty quiet guy, pretty level-headed, doesn't really, until he warms up to you, he doesn't really talk much. So I'm super chatty and loud, and you can know when I'm around. So I'd go over to the Cowie truck and talk to Travis, and I think I'd already rubbed him and B the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
And so after me and Cranston didn't tell me this for a year. He was like, hey, I just want to be honest with you. When we were talking about mechanics, I had a whole list I gave to Dan, and your name wasn't on it.
Wow.
Damn,
I was like, thanks, Doc.
Were you?
So I throw that up in his face all the time.
Were you stressed when Joey left and Adam came on, and Adam obviously and Zim were super tight, and were you stressed?
Well, that's a really long story, but I was mega stressed. Okay. But me and Zim are best friends. He was, a little bit more detail, but he was dating my sister at the time.
Oh, wow.
Best friend.
Oh, Jesus.
He lived him and his buddy Josh that worked at Pro Circuit lived in the apartment above me.
Okay.
We were family, him and my wife and his, everything was super bitching, and we did everything together. And when I went to Cowie, we already saw the writing on the wall that Adam was going to be slated to come up there.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how it was going to shake down. Well, I don't know what was said on like Steve and Adam's side or whatever. Won't really get into that, but like I think Brandon at the time thought he was coming.
I do too. Yeah, I think so too. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, it really tainted like me and Brandon's relationship. We didn't talk for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bad situation. Like, it's hard for both of us because it would have been like I would have lost my job and he would have got the job. He still had a job at Pro Circuit.
Yep.
I probably would have had to go back there, or you never want to backtrack, right? Like you're never too good for something, but you want to keep progressing. And even Mitch will tell you like the smart ones are the ones that work at his place and get out of there and go on to 450 teams or crew chief roles somewhere or be a suspension guy. Like you learn what you need to learn and you realize when you've stayed your time there and then you bounce. So.
Yeah.
Zim. Yeah, it was really difficult.
Worked out well for Zim.
Yeah. Chase, right?
Yeah.
You got a 450 title.
Well, because when he didn't get the job working for Adam, which I almost took a job in Team Green or tried to anyway. That way he could still work for Adam and me be on the team, somewhat or whatever. So Dan didn't want it that way. He wanted me to work for Adam. And I guess, not to my own horn, but he liked my work and he appreciated like me getting along with everybody on the team and making my own relationships with everybody and just showing up and fitting in. So, well, I mean, you know how it is on teams. Like it's a lot about like the workmanship, but it's even more about like the fit. Dan's big decider on team members is how they're going to fit in with all the other guys.
Yeah.
So you got to be accepted and you got to earn it,
I know how it is. Trevor and Dan do not know how it is. They don't know because they're riders.
They're just riders.
I know how it is. I think Zim's going to KTM. I think, right? I don't know if you want to.
You're not. Okay. I'm not. That's not coming from me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, I think Zim's going to KTM with Chase. So.
Who's he going to work?
I heard Chase is going to KTM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
What a coincidence!
I had heard twice already that I'm going to KTM with Chase. So.
Really?
Yeah. Two different people would come up and talk and like, oh, really, KTM, huh?
Wow.
And I was like, no. And of course, when you say no, everybody's like, yeah, you're bullshitting. I was like, dude, I will never leave Cali. I'll just say it right now. I'll never leave Cali unless they walk me out the door. I'm here until I'm done being a mechanic. This is where I'll be.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Rider in, rider out, whatever they tell me, I'll work on the bike. So.
I talked to Kranz at the Coliseum. He's back at work. That's awesome. Great job. Yep, Kranz is awesome. Good
dude. So the Coliseum day is the day he went into the hospital when he got diagnosed with cancer.
Was it really?
Oh, wow. The anniversary.
One year to the day.
Oh, I didn't know
Hadn't been to a race all year. Didn't go to any of them. Didn't, Dude, he was down and out for a while. He's still recovering, getting back.
Yeah, he told me. Yeah, he's not
it's
quite.
It's still a little bit of a road for him. Like he was there today. Like he grinds himself. Like he's been on his mountain bike. He's been at the track with Brock, like the 24 thing. He came back right when the 24, we were getting Brock's 24 up and going. And he's, some days he'll do a shop day. Some days he'll go to the track and go home. The other days he has to go to chemo still. Like, he's a dude. He's a legend in my eyes. Like, he's awesome.
Good guy.
Everybody's happy to have him back.
He was my mechanic on Geico when I filled in.
And he loves talking about you, Dan.
Absolutely the coolest dude. Me and him bonded, and then he's a Laker fan. I'm a Kings fan, so we just butted heads hard. But I'll always remember just the way. I mean, this is crazy how life works out. Is later in the year because we became friends that carried past my short little 6-week stint there. And I remember at the end of the year, he was like, "Hey, I got a question for you. I've got not like a dilemma, but a proposition being put in front of me. I'm working with Brett Metcalf. We're like banging down podiums. We're like right there. Race wins are right there. But I'm being offered the opportunity to maybe start over with an amateur. And I don't know if I want to go back to amateurs. I kind of like where I'm at. But what do you think?" And it was Tomac. Was the amateur kid coming up. Right. And that worked out pretty damn good. Yeah, I'd say for him.
Yeah, I think they did okay.
They did all right together. Yeah. But I remember that call, and I was just like, same thing. Like, you don't want to go backwards, but, man, sometimes you just get the right one.
Who's better with bonuses, AC or Joey?
It's about the same. Bonuses aren't what they used to be back in the day. Everybody gets dealt in now, like if the guys are doing it the right way. Like Steve, I'll be honest, he really takes care of the guys and makes sure the mechanics are thought about and taken care of. And obviously when the wins are there and the podiums are there, like the money's coming in. So, it's good. Obviously we have some rough racing this year, I mean, with Joey, I think in the beginning it was like the standard rate, and then you bring on a trainer, you bring on all these people, and you just try to divide it up. So
sure,
I mean, at PC it's way different. Like,
yeah.
You're fighting tooth and nail for bonuses because it's the lights class, right? You don't race as much, and the money's not as good, and it's just different. And it's even different now because I know all the rates have went up over there and all the other teams, and it's just, I don't know, it's different.
Well, cool, Shantie. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man.
Good to have you on. Liked hearing your story.
It's my first pulp show, so thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Oh, really? I've never had you on before.
No, I thought we were better friends than that.
I've had him on.
You need to clip that, his whole segment, his story.
Yeah.
And then when people say, so how do I get in the industry?
Yeah,
just send them the link.
Yeah,
Here you go.
Listen, a lot of us have those stories, man. You just, I slept in a race shop.
When I was on Dark Side show, I explained some of that a little bit, and